Hello, I'm Asun Domínguez, speaking to you from the school that we have here in San Sebastian. About the video that we previously recorded for making masks, we've made a new version that includes some side openings so that you can put in a filter, and we've also changed the way to sew on the elastic bands so that it's simpler. You can download the complete pattern for free in the video description below. Many people are using thicker fabrics, such as denim, and that's why we've made a new version adapted to that material. We'd love for you to tag us on Instagram when you make this mask to show how beautiful it turns out. These masks are being made all over the world because they cover the face so well. We're going to follow some basic instructions. If you need additional information, you can see the previous video that explains this in more detail. I'll try to explain well enough here so that you don't have to go back to the other video. The most important thing is to adjust the stitch. Make it very small and sew it close to the edge of the presser foot, no more than 1 centimeter or a little less than 1/4 of an inch. Look at the tiny stitch I've made here. You almost can't see the stitch, and this is to avoid anything filtering through the mask. Now we're going to make the side openings using a zigzag stitch on the machine. We select the width that we want. That option could be in numbers. Select the stitch width and length. With the button that has the stitches, you can select the width and also the length, more open or more closed. It doesn't have to be very long. We only need it not to come apart later when we have to cut it. Let's start at the very top. We leave a distance of about 4 centimeters or 1.5 inches from the edge of the material to the presser foot. If you have problems maintaining the distance, you can put some tape, like masking tape or something similar, as a marker to guide you. I'm going to use this line as a reference so that I know I have to sew it over there. We're sewing in zigzag. I make a test to check if it's too thick or very closed. I make adjustments as I want. When I get towards the end, the needle down, I turn it, and I continue sewing until the end. You have to be careful to leave a space between the two stitched lines where I'm going to cut later. Now I've got it. I've sewn the 2 zigzag lines and I've left a little bit of fabric in between them to cut a slit, but I'm not going to cut it yet. I'll cut it after. And now I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side. Remember, we're not going to cut anything yet. Here we have the 2 elastic bands, one measuring 28 centimeters or 11 inches. The other 24 centimeters or 9.5 inches. The longer one goes on the top for the nose. The other shorter band is for the chin. I pin the bands to the 4 edges to sew in the pleat measuring 2.5 centimeters or a little under an inch. From the edge of the pleat, there are 4 centimeters or 1.5 inches on the 2 sides. In the center, we have a space of 2.5 centimeters or a little under an inch marked by the 2 pleats, which are the marks where I have to make a fold. I fold the pleat down. Why do I make that pleat? This pleat will keep the fabric from sticking to the face and lets us breathe better. We attach the bands with a backstitch and remove the pins. Finish off the seam well. The back stitches don't have to be so small. Remember, the tiny stitches were for the part of the mask that covers the mouth. Finish it off and sew up the elastic bands so that they don't slip out. Now we have the two parts of the mask sewn and the elastic bands attached. I'm going to turn this piece inside out with the right side up. Take the part without stitching on one side, join it to the part without stitching of the other piece, and the elastic bands are now left inside in the interior. We're going to sew up the entire edge of the mask. Notice here that the elastic band goes inside so that it doesn't get caught in the machine. We'll also make a pleat on the other part, but I can do that as I sew. We're going to sew two pleats in the same direction. As you can see, I'm going to put this part with this one, and there we have it. I'm going to make them as we sew. I've sewn everything, and I want to show you a trick for sewing up the corner. Leave the needle down, turn, go back down, and repeat. We put both ends of the fabric together to get a good pleat. As a precaution, when you're going over the elastic band, you can go over it twice with a backstitch to finish the seam off, since it's the part of the mask that will suffer the most wear and tear. When we get to the end, needle down, turn, and continue. We now have a closed mask, and we're going to make some notches in the most curved part to keep its shape. We can also carefully make some V-shaped cuts, making sure we don't go all the way through to the stitched part. I have it completely closed. To turn it inside out, I have to open one of them, creating a slit. We'll go in with the scissors, taking care not to cut the elastic band below. To make sure that we don't catch the elastic band that's inside, we can use the rounded blade of the scissors. So we can use both sides of scissors for this. We now have the slit open, and we're also going to recut the four corners in diagonal, otherwise it looks ugly and ends up thick. Recut the four corners. Through the same opening that I've made, I'm going to turn the mask inside out. If the material is very thick, it might take a little more effort to do this. We've now turned it completely inside out, and you can see how good it looks. A tip for pulling out the corners. Take the scissors and using the rounded part, push against the stitches so they look better. Do the same on the other side. I now have the completed mask. To finish off, we have to backstitch the edge along the entire contour so that it looks prettier, and to reinforce the elastic bands. This time I'm going to sew it on the right because the thread on the right is copper colored, and we'll give it a nice finish. Many of you are making masks with all types of material, and they're turning out beautiful. I'm going to go over the entire contour with a backstitch. Here we have the final result, a denim mask with side openings to put in and take out filters. And it's a simpler and faster way to make these masks. Remember that you can also make these for children and kids. We're preparing all kinds of tutorials for things like the jacket and blouse I'm wearing today and other garments that we make in the school. We look forward to seeing you in the next tutorials. And remember, if you don't know how to sew, you have all the links included in the video description, including a free sewing course. See you next time. All the best.